Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new here, my name is Lloyd, and I'm a former corporate lawyer based out of Hong Kong. We get asked a lot of great questions from you guys in our comments and in our DMs, but by far the most frequently asked question is, can I still get a job as a lawyer if my grades in law school were only okay or maybe not so great? And I wanted to answer that question in today's video with the answer, which is yes, you absolutely can. But instead of just leaving it there, I wanted to take you through my law school grades and walk through what I did right and maybe what I didn't do so well and how I overcame that in finding my job as a corporate lawyer. And if you've clicked into this video, then you'll know that everything was not necessarily perfect for me, but I still managed to get a job as a corporate lawyer working in M&A. Before I get into it, I do want to let you guys know that Em and I are working on a newsletter where, among other things, Em and I will be answering some of the great questions that you guys ask us in our comments and in our DMs. So if you guys have any interest in keeping up with that and with the other things we have planned for the newsletter, we'll leave a link down below where you guys can subscribe. Alright, let's get right into it. So first off, to start, I think it's important to talk about the structure of the law school that I went to. So I went to law school at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, where I took law as an undergraduate degree which spanned over the course of 4 years. On top of that, I did one additional year for an exchange program to Emmanuel College, University of Cambridge in my second year of study. So getting right into my first year courses, I mean, you can kind of see based on the list here that we had some funny electives that we had to take. The ones that kind of stand out are softball in my first term and basketball in my second term. For the most part, I'm going to skip through the electives, but these are probably worth mentioning. My school had a requirement for first year students to do PE classes, where we basically had to pick a sport that we wanted to learn and take a course on it. All in all, they were only a credit each, and they were a lot of fun, so I kind of enjoyed it. With respect to the legal courses that I took in my first year, so you'll see that in my first semester, I struggled a bit, to find my footing, and I didn't really do all that well. And I kind of attribute this to the fact that I think for a lot of people coming into law school, it can be pretty difficult to learn how to write in a legal style and take exams in a legal style if you haven't had exposure to that before. In my case, when I was in high school, I did the IB program, and I took what we referred to lovingly as the Asian six-pack, which was higher level math, biology, and chemistry, and standard level business, English, and Chinese. I actually thought that I was going to go to medical school for the longest time, but kind of decided that I wanted to go into law because I realized that I enjoyed the idea of being able to form arguments and considering things from multiple sides as opposed to a more fact-based learning. So I struggled with the writing aspect a lot, coming out of high school where I mostly did sciences and all of a sudden needing to learn how to do legal writing. At the end of that semester, I asked a bunch of my professors if they'd be willing to share with me, the things that I didn't do so well or go through my exam papers with me. And as a result of that, you'll see that I improved quite a bit in my second semester and did quite a bit better in my law courses. It's always good to ask your professor or your TA if they're willing to go through an exam that you've taken with you to give you that constructive feedback that can really help you iterate on your own process and be better at taking exams or writing papers. Of course, they might say no, but it never hurts to ask. So then we come to my second year, where I went on exchange to the University of Cambridge, specifically at Emmanuel College. So this I saw as a massive opportunity. The exchange was a 1-year-long program, and I was told that all the courses I'd be taking would be graded pass-fail. So because what I chose to study on exchange didn't have any bearing on my legal studies back home, I chose to satisfy my intellectual curiosity and pick something that I was interested in but may not have any relevance for my career. And because of that, I chose to study politics, psychology, sociology, and international relations. So because I took the classes pass-fail, I also didn't really feel too stressed about the exams. That said, I saw the exams as a really good opportunity for me to work on my own exam taking technique and kind of get some practice at writing essays in the heat of the moment. So I managed to get a 2-1 equivalent, which is around a B average for my exams overall. And while I'm at it, if you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. We've been on YouTube for over a year now, and I still always forget to do the call to action. So, moving on to my third year, this is when I came back from my exchange program, and it was technically the second year of my law school studies. The first semester of my third year was actually the best semester that I had throughout the entirety of law school. So I think there were a couple things that really helped me this semester. The first one was coming back from exchange and having a lot of practice writing essays while I was at Cambridge really helped me with the essays that I was writing back at home. And the second thing is that this is the first year that I did a serious moot court competition. Now, I've talked about these on the channel before. It's basically a kind of mock trial thing that most law schools have some form of. Because we had to do written submissions for these as well, I got a lot of practice writing our memo and really just learning how it is that submissions for legal writing should be drafted. And as a result of that, I think it really helped me when I was writing problem questions or even just breaking down how to present my answers on exams. And that really led to me doing a lot better in my courses overall. A couple things that are interesting about these grades. The first is that, as you'll see, my company law performance was not that great. I mean, you would have expected it to be better given that I went and became a corporate lawyer. But that being said, and as you'll see later on in the video, performance in academics doesn't necessarily translate to performance in practice. I find company law super interesting to practice, but I found it super dry to learn in a classroom setting in an academic way. The second thing is, as you can see, I got an A in criminal law in both semesters, and I actually ended up winning the criminal law prize that year. I found that I did really well in the courses that had a more practical exam component as opposed to one that was more academic. For instance, with criminal law, we had a problem question-based exam where we basically were given a case study and had to break down all of the potential legal claims that could arise from this fictitious fact problem. I always tended to do quite well with those, and I think that really just signaled where my mind was at and how I was much more of a practice-oriented person as opposed to an academic. That said, I never really had much interest practicing criminal law, even though I found it really interesting to study, so again, there is that sort of component of just because you did well in school doesn't necessarily mean that that translates to practice either. So, moving on to my fourth year of study, which was my third year in law school. Yeah, so there's not really too much to talk about here. I mean, we do have our first C that we've seen so far. It's not the worst grade I've gotten, unfortunately, but it is the first time I got a C. And this was for civil procedure, which was kind of notorious in my school for being one of the most difficult exams, and one where even if you were doing pretty well in law school up till then, you might get a really bad grade in for whatever reason. There's also another interesting elective here, being chemistry in the kitchen. So we had to take courses from these general buckets, and one of those buckets was science. I saw this course, and as someone that really loves to cook and actually really loves chemistry, I kind of decided that this would be a great class to take, and it was actually a lot of fun. And then we get to my fifth and final year, which was my fourth year in law school. Now this is where shit hit the fan for me. So as you can see, this was by far the worst semester that I ever had by a very wide margin. So without getting into the details too much, this year I had a lot of personal issues that kind of really seriously took away my ability to perform and ability to focus with my academics. And to be completely honest with you guys, when I got my grades this semester, I thought I was completely f***ed. I mean, I wanted to be a commercial lawyer, and I got a D+ in commercial law, which was basically 1/2 grade above the failing level. And I knew that having a D+ in commercial law would be a massive roadblock in terms of me reaching that objective. But you know, I worked really hard and I applied to a lot of internships, and I kind of had this mindset of, okay, you know, if I get my foot in the door and I get a chance to do an internship, I'll demonstrate that I understand commercial realities, I understand how commercial lawyers work, and the considerations that you would need to have if you want to work in this area of law. So when I went to my law firm interview, where they basically asked me about this, of course, you know, the partner was kind of half laughing and was like, wow, you know, D+ in commercial law, like what happened here? I kind of just explained that, you know, I went through some personal stuff and I had a really difficult time, and it's not reflective of the rest of my performance, and obviously was an outlier. I think they were satisfied with that. I mean, obviously I ended up with a job and everything was okay, and, you know, it's never really become an issue ever since. And you know, if I'm being completely honest, it's a bit strange to bring this up and share this in a video, but I do think it's important to show people that just because you have one bad semester or one really bad grade or just have a rough time for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that you can't succeed in what you want to do. I think sometimes we get swept up in this idea that you have to always be top of your class, you have to be perfect, you know, you can't have a situation like this, otherwise you're just screwed. So the point of this is, if you've had difficulties along the way, if you face challenges, if there are things in your transcript or resume that you think might be difficult to explain, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should lose hope, and there's always a chance. But once you have your foot in the door, what really matters is your performance and whether or not you can do the job adequately. I mean, once I started work, no one really talked about grades anymore, and it wasn't even ever a thing. So there you have it, guys. And yeah, to be honest, this is a weird one to share because this is something that truthfully I've kind of wanted to just leave in the past and move on from and not really think about anymore. But at the same time, I do think there's value in sharing this. It kind of goes to show that, you know, we all kind of have our own bumps in the road and challenges that we face, but it doesn't mean that just because you've had a bad grade or you've had a bad semester that it precludes you from doing the things that you want to do. So I think one thing that is worth mentioning in my case, though, is that obviously for me, there was one semester that was particularly bad. I think it would be a little bit harder to explain if there are multiple semesters that are bad, but at the same time, I do know people that have come back from far worse and who found their way into getting a job, you know, in the most incredible ways possible. So don't sell yourself short. And if I can get a D+ in commercial law and still become a commercial lawyer at a top-tier international law firm, then you can do whatever it is you want to do as well. Thanks for watching.